Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sorry We're Closed podcast. It's opening day of the 2020 Major League Baseball season, and we have Mookie Betts possibly signing at the time of this recording, which is Wednesday. Mookie Betts possibly signing a $350 to $400 million 10-year contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And as a Red Sox fan, I am not doing great. I thought we had a chance to, bring him back to Boston and go on a little run. We got Rafael Devers, we got JD Martinez, we got Xander Bogaerts. We had Ryan Weber last night throw pretty well. It's a young guy who's, coming up that, might be able to contribute to this pitching staff. We got Chris Sale coming back next year. We got, Martin Perez, who's throwing the ball really well. We got guys. We got Evaldi, who's been a bit of an injury guy, but still, solid pitcher. Got Eddie Rodriguez, 19-game winner last year. We got a team that I don't think we should throw right into rebuilding. I think it's a mistake. And, we offered Mookie $300 million, supposedly. Turned it down. Obviously, he was right in turning that down. His market value was significantly higher than that based off of what the Dodgers are currently going to pay him, allegedly. I think this was, and as I stated on Twitter, I think this will be a bigger miss by this ownership team than John Lester was. John Lester was a phenomenal pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, helped them win a World Series with Theo over there in Chicago. And, we're letting a franchise player leave the city willingly. You're talking some of the best players in baseball right now. Mookie's right up there with them. He's not Mike Trout, but he is a dynamic player. He was a homegrown player. I think it is a huge miss on Boston's end. I think this is to let this guy walk with a team that's a solid team. It's missing a few pieces, but it's a solid team. And you got some young guys. Devers isn't very expensive right now. It's not that bad of a team. We have a top 10 offense in baseball, and you're working to build a pitching staff. You got to build them by a few young guys. You can't buy a World Series ring in total. You can't buy the pitching staff and the lineup. You can typically buy one or the other. They have a great lineup. Now you got to hopefully find some young guys that can contribute on the pitching end to push this team over the edge. But you just, let Mookie walk. Now you let David Price walk, which I think a lot of people were happy about. I wasn't too happy about. I know he's a big contract, but, having him in that, he was integral to that World Series team. He's a guy that I want on my pitching staff. I think what Boston's doing right now is a mistake. I think it's a mistake. Maybe they're trying to save money. Maybe they're not doing as well financially as everyone thinks. It's hard for me to believe that. So I think it was a misread on where this team is and the direction this team's going in. And I think that Bloom's going to get a lot of credit for what this team does in the next 5 years, which I think are going to be pretty solid for a small market team. But I think Boston has always operated as a big market, and I think they should continue to do so. I don't think this is a team that we should be, telling to kick rocks and, let's see what you can do. I don't think so. So I think this is going to be a big miss. I think Mookie, obviously, it's not a hot take to say that Mookie Betts is going to be a miss by not letting him resign. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to give him big money. You guys don't realize that, you see these big dollar signs. These guys make that money back for their clubs easily. And don't think, Mookie making, $30 million in a year, that is made back by that ball club. You're bringing in, they're $1 billion franchises yearly. They're not. This is not a. They're making a lot of money, so they don't have to worry about that. But Mookie definitely could have signed with Boston. Obviously, he tested the free agent market. He didn't really test it all that much, but LA is going to get him. He's not going to get more than that in free agency anyway. So I think this is a home run, and well done by the Dodgers. Well done by the Dodgers. They're setting themselves up to be one of the better teams in baseball for the next decade. They are doing some really cool stuff over there. So, it's unfortunate what Boston's doing right now, but I digress. Let's talk about the Boston team we have now. Mookie's gone. We got Devers. We got Xander. We got JD. We got Mitch Moore. We got some guys in this lineup. This lineup is solid. Obviously, last night I think we scored 6 runs, ended up losing 8-6 to Blue Jays in the last inning. The pitching, Ryan Weber threw the ball well. If he keeps the ball down in the zone, he's a 2-seam guy with a lot of movement. If he keeps the ball down in the zone, he'll do well. But the most impressive thing that Ryan Weber was doing last night was he was able to get away with mid-80s fastballs up in the zone. And the reason he was able to do that is because he's mixing his pitches. He's locating well, but he's mixing his pitches so well that it keeps the guys off balance. That's the name of the game for a guy who's going to throw mid to upper 80s. That's the name of the game. You don't have a fastball that you can get away with up in the zone, in the mid 90s, upper 90s, even when they know it's coming. If they know the fastball's coming up in the zone, they're going to hit it. These guys are good, and you're going to see adjustments made by hitters, throughout the season to Ryan, and he's going to have to make adjustments as well. But that's every pitcher in baseball. Some guys got to make more, some guys got to make less. But to see that guy pitch last night and dissect that lineup, which is a pretty good lineup, it's not anything to sneeze at. It was fun to watch, and it gave me a little hope. I think he's our three starter, or our 3 in the rotation, behind Eddie and Evaldi. I think it gave me a little hope that we have 3 solid guys back there. So, and then we have Martin Perez, who's been throwing the ball really well. We just got what's that guy's name? Godley, who I'm not super high on. I'd rather see a Brian Johnson back there than I think Zach Godley. I think Brian is a good lefty arm, throws a bunch of things for strikes. Godley was in Arizona last year with a 5-year ERA. I think I'm sure he's a great guy. I don't know anything about him, but I'd rather see a guy like BJ behind, back there on the back end, who is going to eat up innings. He's going to throw 4 pitches for strikes. He's not going to waste your bullpen, and that's what you're looking for from a 5th starter. And he's going to win. I think he can win 10 ball games in Major League Baseball. I think he can go out there and win, especially with this lineup. I think he could surprise you. So I think we have a solid team, and then it's going to rely on that bullpen. Brandon Workman threw the ball tremendously last night. That curveball is filthy in the back end of the bullpen. Matt Barnes is as good as they come, as consistent as they come. I know people get on him throughout the year, but no one's be perfect. But Matt's it's a great pitcher, and Brazier, who didn't throw the ball well last night, he's got some stuff. He's not horrible, So I think if he figures it out a little bit, or we get some guys step up in the bullpen that maybe we're not expecting to this year, which is always possible. There's always possible. There's always guys down in the farm that have great stuff. It's just whether or not they can translate that to the big league arena. And I hope we have some guys down there that can do that. And then maybe they come through this year. I'm not giving up on the Sox team. This team has some pieces to make a run this year. Would we be in a better position with David Price and Mookie Betts on the team? Yeah, we would be. We'd be in a lot of position. I mean, the balance sheet might not be as good for John Henry, but we'd be in a much better position to win this team, especially with Sale out. Having David Price as your 3, along with now we have Weber at 4 and maybe Martin Perez at 5. That's a much better staff. I think this Sox team has some pieces to make a run. I'll be interested to see Godley pitch tonight with BJ behind him. I'll be interested to see how those 2 guys look going into the season. I think we're looking at a team that, if it's a 162 game season, probably finishes in third. With that big of a sample size, you're looking at the Yankees and the Rays, who are more talented ball clubs. I think you're looking at those two teams as, rising to the top in that big of a sample size. But in a 60 game season, you have no clue what's going to happen. Tampa and New York get off to slow starts. Boston get off to a hot start, which honestly, the way the Mets looked this past weekend, they have the first 7 games that are not terribly hard wins. You have the Orioles, you got the Mets following with 4 games, and you head into the Bronx. If we can get 5-2 out of that, we're sitting pretty going into New York. And if we put together a solid series there, all of a sudden now this Boston team that you talked about as a third or fourth place team, now you're talking about, we get the first 2 weeks of baseball in, and they just split with the Yankees. I don't know if they have 3 or 4 games, or they just took the series against the Yankees. Now it's like, okay, maybe Boston can compete this year. And that's only a week and a half into the season because, you only have, 60 games. You only have 50 games left. So it's an interesting season. It's going to be absolutely paramount that the Red Sox get off to a hot start. Absolutely paramount. But I think every team in baseball is pretty much saying that. I think they have to get off to a hot start. And getting on a little bit of a roll, getting some confidence boosts, I think will help this team. Obviously will help this team possibly compete for a World Series this year. At least, a wild card berth and see what they can do in the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So, that's the state of Boston right now. Is hoping for a hot start and seeing what they can pull off if they can kind of get, halfway through the season, which is only 30 games in, halfway through the season and, putting some pressure on a New York Yankee team that historically hasn't done tremendous with pressure, and a Rays team that historically has not been in pressure situations. So, they got a chance. We need some things to happen that we aren't anticipating happening, but we got a chance. So that's where we're at with Boston. Again, we got another 5:30. I'm filming this on Wednesday. We have another game tonight, 7:30 start against the Blue Jays. As you're listening to this, though, it is opening day in Boston. And it's not opening day in Boston. Boston actually plays on Friday, but it is opening day for baseball. It'll be fun to watch some games. And get this season, which is largely unknown of what's going to happen, get started. So it actually has a pretty big impact on the NFL season. I think NFL is just going to watch the Major League Baseball. If Major League Baseball is able to go off without a hitch, I think the NFL ends up having a season as well. So a lot riding on this baseball season, a lot more riding than typical. Typically, the NFL season's not riding on whether or not baseball can play. So I think we're in for quite a tumultuous. I can't say that word well. Quite an interesting season. With that being said, it's opening day. We're excited. I'll be coming on. Obviously, tune into my YouTube show with Giraffe Neck Mark. I'll be putting that out either tomorrow on Thursday or Friday, talking about the season. Huge Mets fan that guy Mark is. Tune in, obviously, all my Instagram lives and Twitter lives. Moving forward, we are turning into an Instagram live, Twitter live fiend. I did it last night, loved it, so I'll probably be doing it a lot more. And subscribe to thepatlight.com. You'll be getting, obviously, you'll get email alerts whenever there's a blog posted, and I'm working on getting email alerts anytime there is a podcast sent out, which I think you guys have interest in. So, subscribe to that, get that going, and until then, we got a weekend of baseball here. We got Boston and Baltimore. Let's sweep them and then let my podcast that I'm going to record on Sunday night be a happy one going into a 4-game set against the Mets. Until then, folks, I appreciate you listening to Sorry We're Closed. I appreciate everything, and I will be seeing you guys on Twitter and Instagram for the weekend, and hopefully a fun weekend. See you guys.